One question I get asked a lot is, what skills do I need in order to become a successful animator or a motion designer? Now, although there are some specific skills that you do need to possess, there's no set rule for these things really that work for everyone. But if you want to increase your chances of getting a job, regardless of the industry, as an animator or a motion designer, there are some things that you should look to improve. First of all, contrary to some common beliefs, you do not need to have good drawing skills in order to become an animator. Let's repeat that. You do not need to be a good drawer in order to become an animator, especially if you want to become a motion graphics artist. Many talented motion designers I know are hopeless, literally hopeless when it comes to drawing, but they create some of the best motion graphics animations I see around. That being said, if you do know how to draw, then you can certainly use that to your advantage, since that means that you already have an understanding of what makes a good composition, framing, lighting, proportions. These are things that you can certainly put to use in your own animations. Then there's the software side of things. Unless you're looking to become a traditional animator and draw every single frame by hand, in which case I salute you and good luck, you are going to need to learn some software. The software packages you need to learn will be determined by the type of animation you'd like to get into. For example, if you want to create 2D animations and motion graphics, learning Adobe After Effects is almost certainly a must. It's such a versatile software, and I couldn't recommend learning After Effects enough. It's used to create title sequences, visual effects, motion graphics, infographics, 2D character animation, and much, much more. Although you can get away with not knowing how to use Adobe Illustrator, it would certainly help if you did. Most of the time, the 2D animations you'll be creating in After Effects will start life as still graphics that once were in Illustrator. So that's why it's a good idea to have at least some basic understanding of Illustrator. Even if you don't end up creating illustrations yourself, you'll likely be making some small changes to them. You know, a corner here, a color there. And compared to the rest of the applications you'll be learning anyway, Illustrator isn't really that difficult to learn. So it would be a good idea to learn at least the basics of it. If you want to get into 3D animation, then the options can be a little more complicated and confusing. The most popular applications in 3D include Cinema 4D, Maya, Houdini, 3ds Max, and Blender. You may now be asking, of course, well, which one? The answer to that question isn't very straightforward, I'm afraid. They all have their pros and cons. Let me start with my personal favorite, Cinema 4D. The reason why that's my favorite is because I primarily do motion graphics. And that's what your choice of 3D software will usually boil down to. What are you going to be using the software for? If it's motion graphics, well, Cinema 4D is a great choice with all of its specialist tools for motion design. If you are creating animations for games or movies, then Maya is likely going to be your software choice. It's got some amazing features that allow you to create character animations, simulations, and visual effects. Speaking of visual effects, there's also Houdini, which is probably one of the most difficult applications to learn in this list. The main reason why it's hard to learn is because it works fundamentally differently than the other applications that I just mentioned. It uses data to drive visual effects, so it's a little less intuitive at first, but once you learn the capabilities, they're just mind-blowing. You can create amazingly realistic physics simulations in Houdini, like smoke, fluids, flames, disintegrations, and much more. If you'd like to create more technical animations and architectural visualizations, then there's 3ds Max. 3ds Max is great if you're modeling or animating a 3D product, the interior of a building, set design, or anything else really where you need to be quite precise with your measurements. You can of course be quite precise with the other applications as well, but 3ds Max is renowned for its accurate design and animation tools. Finally, there's Blender. Blender is a great all-rounder. It doesn't quite specialize in one of the aspects like motion graphics or character animation or architectural renders. It handles all of these different disciplines rather nicely. And amazingly, it's the only application in this list that's completely free. You heard that right, Blender is 100% free and open source. All the other applications I mentioned earlier require you to purchase a license. Blender? No. You can download it right now and start using it without paying a single dollar. So, circling back to what I was talking about earlier, your choice of software will heavily depend on the type of work you'll be creating. And that's going to be the best answer you'll ever get to the question, which software is better? If anyone says one software is better than the other one, don't just take their word for it. This will depend on what you intend to use it for. Another important aspect of becoming a successful motion designer is an appetite for learning. You have to stay on top of your game. The digital world is evolving at an unprecedented speed that's really hard to keep up with. You do not want to be an outdated animator. So always look to learn new things, as well as improving your existing core animation skills. I've been using various animation software for well over 20 years, and I can confidently say that I'm still learning something new every day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm one of the very few instructors in the world who's certified simultaneously in teaching After Effects, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, Illustrator, Photoshop, Cinema 4D, Redshift, and I've taught and kind of explained how animation works to literally tens of thousands of people. But I'm still learning something new every day, so keep your skills sharp. Last, but certainly not the least, you must have fun while creating animations. Yes, there'll be lots of things you'll have to worry about, like the bills you'll have to pay at the end of each month, the license fees that pile up, the hardware upgrades, the cost of learning new things, finding new clients, keeping the old ones happy, the lack of inspiration, being exhausted. But as soon as you sit in front of your computer, you need to learn how to leave all of that behind and just concentrate on having fun while creating the best animations you can. That's perhaps the most important advice I could ever give you. Enjoy creating something that you know would not exist, unless you decided to sit down in front of your computer with a clear head and start having fun.